Whitney Harding here inside the NBC4i Digital Center. We are getting closer and closer to the Memorial Tournament. It is something I know that we all look forward to every year. It's a great way to commune with nature in a safe space. I am joined by two golf aficionados, our ball strikers, our putting duo, Jared Smalley, Joe Nugent, the stars of the NBC4 golf team.
Are we going with that? Wow, that is overselling.
I had to build it up a little bit.
We've played the golf course. Does that count?
Yeah, that's
all right.
You know what? That's more than most people.
Yeah, it's a hard place to
I've
play.
walked the golf course.
Yep. Well, but I think this is going to be a good opportunity to talk about not only what the golfers will expect, but Whitney, to that point, if you are a spectator going out to Muirfield Village for this tournament, where are the great places to stand? And maybe places that the regulars don't think about so much, where you can go get a great view of the best players in the world.
Yeah, and the goal is to always try to get a view of maybe more than one spot, right? I mean, those are the ideal locations that you want to be at. So, should we dive in?
Let's go numerically. You ready to go?
I think that's a great idea.
Start with the first hole.
Hole number 1. They don't have really cute names. I wish they did.
They don't. Not like the folks in Augusta do.
I know.
But the first hole is not a handshake hole when you get started. 470 yards from the tournament tees, and that fairway. And we're got great drone video here from our team, Alex and Thomas, to show you. This is a very difficult fairway to hit off the jump. A lot of players at the tournament don't hit driver. They'll hit 3-wood or even less, because they're afraid of blowing it through the left side of the fairway, because when it angles back to the right toward the green, that is a really hard place to get the ball to stop. So right off the jump, even though it's not a difficult driving golf course overall, the first tee shot is one of the more difficult ones on the course.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically aiming for the bunkers.
Yes, which is something we don't want to do.
That's very strange. But obviously the idea is to get over it and set yourself up. And I remember last year shooting that first hole when the leaders were coming through, and it felt like a lot of guys had opportunity for birdie putts, but they weren't falling. Like it's one thing to get to the green and have that look, but it's another thing to put it down. And the green's pretty tricky there. One.
No, it sure is.
Absolutely. All right. You go through 1, you make the little short turn to your right, if you will, and we tee off on 2.
And 2 probably should be 1 in terms of the handshake hole to get you off and running in the golf course. 2 is pretty easy, relatively easy golf hole by Muirfield Village standards. Plenty of room off the tee to leave it. The trouble is when you're hitting it into the green there at 2, you do not want to miss right. There is water there to the right, and it gets a little treacherous down there. But generally, a lot of the players who play a draw anyway have no trouble of keeping it left there. And, usually you see a lot of pars. We see some birdies at 2. You don't see a lot of big numbers at 2.
All right. We go from 2 to 3, a par 4, 401 yards. Par 4. It's a short one. Yeah. So you would think potentially a scoring hole. But that the green does have, there is a little bit of, uniqueness to this hole, but
defense.
It's shorter.
Yeah, you've got that water in front of the green there. But the tee shot, a lot of the guys, again, won't hit driver. They'll hit something less. Again, only 400 yards. It is a fairly strong dog leg left. Most guys are going to play it out to the right and have a nicer angle, a little bit more green to work with when you play over the water. But you don't have a lot of room behind the green. It's a pretty narrow green front to back. So you're looking at probably 15 to 20 yards max of landing spot, and depending how firm or how soft it is. And if you were in the back behind that green, you are in deep trouble.
Yeah, this hole historically, like we said, one of the easier ones. I'm trying to look at last year's numbers, and it looks like the par 4-3 about averaged a par, which that's a hole that you can be confident going into. And then you hit 4.
4 is so 4, relatively speaking, isn't all that bad a shot for professional golfers, which I think you could say that for a lot of the golf shots on the golf course. I would say this for amateurs, it's extremely intimidating, because if you pull it left, you are not in a great situation. Yeah. You're either down the ravine there, you're chipping it back up a hill. The rough has grown very high on that hill. So if you're down there, and I've been there, the chip back up is diabolical. It's just not the spot you want to miss. If anything, you want to be short, chip it up and try to make 3 and get out of there.
And I think as you stand on the tee, it's a little bit intimidating because the green is narrow, very deep. You've got a whole lot of room to miss front and back, but left and right, man, what the target here is pretty small.
And quite protected, too. It's not just that the actual green itself is narrow. It is protected by bunkers on almost all the way around. It's one of my favorite holes to sit and watch because there is a nice elevation along the side. So you can truly watch the entire shot and the putts and everything. I mean, it's a par 3, but still you can't always see that. It really is, I think, a nice place to sit and watch if you enjoy watching a par 3.
Wouldn't you remind me, because I don't remember this from a spectator standpoint, but if you're on the top of the hill there, you're near 5T.
You are, I believe.
Can you see 2 green from there?
I'm looking over here at it right now. I have it on this little side computer here.
I think you might be able to see it.
I think you might be able to.
But you can definitely see them play 3. You can see them play 4, and you can see them tee at 5.
It's a really good spot. And for those who are like me of the more porcelain complexion, this is important stuff, boys. There is some foliage at which you can take shade.
Are you talking to us about pale
Yeah.
skin pigment? Okay. All right, fun.
We all have our issues.
It's our struggle.
All right, guys, let's move on now. Oh, thankfully, to the par 5-5. This is where you can breathe a little bit. I mean, it's over 500 yards, more than 500 yards.
Yeah.
Getting close to 530 in some cases, depending where the placement is. It could be 530, but yeah, this is a hole where you're finally like, okay, I can score here.
Yeah, after the tee shot, not too bad. Tee shot, you kind of just knock something out there straight. You don't try to take on that big, right dog leg there. You're kind of just hitting it out there.
Well, you don't need to.
And especially what I've learned over the years is off the back of the 5th green, if you're sitting there watching these guys take the strategy, what they're going to do. A lot of the guys now are hitting a layup of some variety. Very few play off the 2nd fairway. It's the only hole in the golf course with a 2nd fairway. That one on the left, usually they're not in that fairway. Usually they're keeping it to the right because they want that right side angle into the green and have more runoff behind them in case of emergency. But really, it's a 3-shot hole for most of the players in the field, and for good reason. But it's a place where a lot of guys will make par better.
Yeah.
It's also interesting as you sit and watch this hole, you think, my gosh, there's water right up the middle of the fairway in a sense. You can either look at it as 2 different fairways or it's one with this creek right up the middle. But as you play it, it's not, you have a lot of room. So it's not quite as difficult as it looks.
Okay. Par 4, the 6, lots of water going on around this par 4.
I think it's my least favorite hole in a golf course.
Really?
It's because it's kind of boring. There's not a lot of character to it. You just kind of hit the tee shot past the bunkers. And then you have, again, you're protected with pond in the front of the green. Green slopes hard back to front toward the water again. So you have to be long on your approach. But generally, guys don't have too much trouble there. It's not a difficult tee shot, especially the way the guys hit it now.
Right.
Where if you're, an average carry on tour is 285, you have no problem putting it over the bunkers. And so keeping it dry there is not that bad.
And it's pretty wide, that fairway. Got a lot of room there.
It is wide. Okay, those are the first 6 holes. We did the math. We're going to divide this by 3. Very easy. We will be right back after this break to do the next 6 holes where things get a little bit more interesting. Welcome back to our breakdown of the Muirfield Village Golf Course with your expert long version croquet player here, Whitney Harding. I have Joe Nugent and Jared Smalley here as well. They play actual golf.
These introductions are awesome.
I'm just being honest. Let's get right back into it. All right, the par 5-7 scoring hole.
Yeah,
it really is. There's just not much treachery, if you will. Resnick Faldo would say danger.
Danger. I think the 7th hole is my favorite hole in a golf course. After you play the 6th and you're kind of like ho-hum, 7 is great because there's opportunities there. You'll see the guys, this is an easy one for guys to take a shot at getting there in 2. And ordinarily, that can go awry, but they still get up and down for par. There's really not all that much going on there. There is, I think, for amateurs, when you play the golf course, that thought of when I'm not going for it in 2, I'm going to lay up, and how far up do I want to lay up? Because There's plenty of green. That is one of the biggest green complexes on the golf course.
Huge.
So you've got plenty of room to miss. So for those of us who don't hit the most accurate wedge shots on earth, there is at least some breathing room there. But for the guys who play for money, they have no problem at all in this hole. And it's a great spectator hole, and they usually have stands out there.
Great spectator hole.
So yeah, it's a good place to be.
Yeah. And now we go to the par 3-8. I think this is also another great spectator hole. These final three, you can really see multiple shots before you make the turn. And I mean, par threes are just great to watch. But another protected, raised green. I mean, got to get it over that front, or else you are in a world of hurt.
Yeah, the valley there, the valley of death.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've been there.
Was this the hole where they took the tree out a few years ago?
So they've actually removed quite a few things around the 8th hole, and it's got that odd shape where it narrows in the middle and then goes back out because it's protected by bunkers on both sides. So that can get dicey if you miss it left or right. I mean, I remember years ago watching Tiger take 2 out of a bunker there.
Yep.
It's a hard place. You're delighted with par.
They're just like us.
in that one rare moment.
Joe, your thoughts on the par 3-8?
Pretty straightforward. As long as you're on the green. If not, then it's not straightforward.
That's right. There's 2 holes on the golf course that have great houses near the
That's what I was
green.
going to say about this one.
And 8 is one and 15 is the other.
8 great houses. And we'll get to, 15 is one of my favorite holes in the course. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, now let's go to 9. Honestly, I love this hole as well. I love the finish. It's one of I will hang out by the green on this hole because the approach, I think, is just so interesting.
Yeah.
I've watched so many great shots and questionable shots.
9's the coolest.
Yeah.
9's really cool because they're elevated. They're way above you. When you're back there behind the green watching, they're way on top of you, and they're lofting this ball way into the air and just trying to get it to stop dead. And it's so hard to do, especially if the wind's blowing. Especially if it's in their face, which it can be at the 9th hole.
It's kind of a bit of a tunnel there.
Yeah, and you can end up dunking it right in the water.
And a lot of those guys are dealing with a downhill lie, which makes it even more difficult. You've got a smaller margin of error with that kind of situation. Plus, with the water in front, you come up just a little bit short on the green. I mean, trouble.
You can't go long because then you're in the sandbox. So yeah, it's one of my favorite holes. I think it's just fantastic to watch. It's fantastic to walk. And if you are there on a practice day for kiddos, you can easily get autographs as players walk along. That is one of the key spots to be at. So, all right. We make the turn, as you can tell from my whoosh.
Hot dog at the turn.
There. Par 410. It's there. It's
the drive is.
Yeah, it's
the drive is scary because of the doom.
Exactly. The tee shot is the most intimidating on the golf course because of the huge ravine there. Now, from where we play the golf course, we're hitting it well closer to the actual ravine. So it's not nearly as intimidating. And even then, it gets in your head a little bit because you've got to cover the bunkers at the top of the hill in order to have a clear look at the green. The guys who play for money are playing it from way back. They play it. I mean, it's 470 on the card. It's every bit of that. Yeah, the way it feels because it's going uphill.
Yep.
And when you go back there and you watch another spectator hit, just take a minute and find a group with one long hitter in it. Go back behind the 10th tee. Watch them hit that tee shot. It is breathtaking.
Yeah.
To have that kind of confidence and place it over the bunker on the left side. How they do it? Hey man, cool.
Yeah.
And the reward for all of that is a pretty spacious green.
Yeah, very.
So you've got a good chance of getting on there in regulation if you have a good tee shot, but you could still be, looking at an 80-foot putt potentially.
Sure could.
You could.
Sure could. Other side of that.
Yeah. What I love about the start of the back 9 is when you make that turn, or if you start here, you have a really good chance to get some momentum and get going, because once you go from 10, you go to 11, which last year was rated one of the easiest on the course, averaged under par. So I think when you start the back 9, it's really a good chance to get some momentum.
Yeah, the 11th, not too bad. I've seen some horrific tee shots at 11 over the years. I remember Zach Johnson years ago blew one so far left that it ended up in the 13th fairway. He played a second shot up the 13th fairway, hit his third shot back over to the 11th green and made par. And
I mean, he landed in the fairway.
you know, so I'm saying there's multiple routes to that hole, which I think underscores Whitney's point there about it's not that bad a golf hole. Once you hit that tee shot, if you're short of the ravine there, you're just chipping it over basically. You know, fairly comfortable pitch in, and you go make at least 5, maybe 4, and you move on.
Yeah, for the pros, that second shot not too intimidating. I think for others, you know, you stand there, you can't necessarily tell that the whole thing is sloped to the stream and the creek on the right. But there are times where if you hit the ball dead center in that fairway, it's going to start flirting with what's going on there.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So you definitely want to stay on the left, which then also helps with the third shot as well.
Yeah. Then we hit the magnificent hole, the one that takes forever to get to, and you're exhausted by the time you get there.
Man, that's
But
so
you
true.
are rewarded with one of the most beautiful holes in the course, the par 312. It is one of my favorites, whether it's because you've got great things to eat there. It's a par 3. There's tons of shade, and it's just fantastic.
Mhm.
It's a great hole.
So quick spectator nod again here. If you go behind the tee box at 12,
Mm-hmm.
you can see 11 green.
Yeah.
You can see obviously the entire 12th hole. You can turn around
And
and,
you see
see 13
13.
fairway and 13 green.
Mm.
It's,
All those shots in one spot.
it's amazing.
Yeah. And it's pretty great. I love the 12th.
Yeah.
Don't. If you're short, good luck.
Yeah. If you're short, good luck. If you have short legs,
That's actually
Good luck.
Good lesson for life. If you're short, good luck.
along with short legs, because it is a haul to get down there. But again, you are rewarded once you do. Okay, we have gone through the first 12. We are going to take a short break, and then we will come back for the grand finish, one of the hardest on tour. Just give us a minute. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We are breaking down the Muirfield Village golf course ahead of the Memorial. We are on the final 6, the final stretch. Once you get to the last 3, hardest finish on tour. But first, let's talk about 13, 14, 15. 13. It's one of the ones that just kind of, you know, averages about par to par 4. And once you get done with 12, it's kind of nice to see some more green.
Yeah, 13 is a good walk between 12 and 14.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not that hard, but you also don't see a lot of birdies at 13. A lot of the guys that struggle with that putt on the 13th green, tee shot's not that hard, and the approach isn't all that bad either. So the 13th is just kind of like a ho-hum par. If you steal a birdie there, you're in great shape. But generally, you make your par, you move on.
Yeah, on Sunday last year, Scotty had a great look at birdie, and it did not go down.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, happens a lot.
That happens a lot. And now we go to 14, the party hole.
Yes, it is.
It is the party hole. That is where you are going to find the biggest grandstands, the loudest noise. And yeah, it's kind of just, it's another par 4. It's about average par.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
It's a fun hole. The second shot is everything. These guys are usually hitting 7 irons off the tee now. I mean, they're not even remotely getting anywhere, you know, into their longer clubs in the bag. They're just getting it down there to around 120 some yards, 130 at the most out, and then hitting nice wedges in. But that green is diabolical.
Yeah.
It is so well protected, and left and right, especially the iconic Tiger Woods shots of chipping it from the backside there off that completely just overwhelming the golf ball grass in that rough behind the green, and able to you know, do some magic back there. But that's what it requires.
Yeah.
It requires absolute magic to make a score. If you throw it on the green, you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, you know, it's like a lot of the golf course, second shot golf course,
Mm-hmm.
it's second shot hole.
And it's you know, it's similar to some other greens where it's tight, a lot of room, you know, it's deep, a lot of room in front and back of the pin, but left and right, you know, you don't have much room.
You really don't. And we go from there, you know, if you are friends with some of the marshals, as we are, you get your Werther's caramel.
My guy, I think he retired last year.
He retired last year. If he did the story, it's on NBC4i.com, which you are on or on the app. You can watch it. But we move on to 15. Along with 12, I think 15 is my favorite hole on the course, just to relax. I mean, it's a scoring hole, par 5, beautiful homes along it if that's your thing while you're walking. And yeah, it is a hole where you need to make a score
Yeah, you do.
because of what's coming.
Well, the middle of the golf hole, remember a couple of years ago, they dug out like 30 feet of earth and had that big mounding in the middle. All that went away. And when they did that, it gave the players a more fair opportunity to go forward in two because they could at least see the green. And so they had, that renovation, I think, did wonders for the golf course. Risk reward, which is what, myself as a spectator, it's what I want to see. I want to see guys go for it and either crush it or make a huge error. And that's the cool thing about 15. You can sit on the back and see guys do a little bit of both all day. And obviously, if you're rewarded, you can make eagle. A couple of years ago, Billy Horschel made an incredible eagle, won the golf tournament off that, just the strength of that hole. So scoring's out there, but you ever make an extraordinary second shot.
And if you end up in a bunker with that second shot, if you inside bunker, those things are deep.
They are deep.
At that hole.
Yes, they are.
Well, they are definitely more of the pothole style.
Yes.
Sure.
But the thing is, you go from there, and now we hit 3 of the toughest holes on the entire PGA Tour. And we start with 16, which has been a puzzle for Jack the past few years because he keeps changing it, moving that tee box all around. I mean, 2 years ago, guys said, no, it's too far. It's too much. You're back on the street. They moved it up and over a little bit for last year, and that's where it stays.
Yeah, if you play a draw, you can actually get it on the green. If you don't, a lot of guys on tour cut the ball now.
Yes.
And that hole, if you cut the ball, is diabolical. It's sloping away to the left, all that protected by water. There's a little bit of bailout to the right, but you got to keep it short. So you actually want to take less club. And a lot of the guys last year on Sunday, I was out there behind the 16th green for quite a bit. And a lot of the guys, best players on tour who hit cuts, hit the ball intentionally short on the first shot and then tried to chip it over.
Yeah.
And a lot of fours get made at 16. A lot of them. Just because of that strategy. But they're so afraid of hitting the water.
Yeah.
That's wild because that is so rare to see, anybody lay up in a par 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Phil Mickelson famously, but when that first was announced, when they first revealed that hole after the renovation, that was Phil Mickelson's whole big thing. He laid up on the par 3. And everybody's like, oh, Phil's crazy, right? Well, Phil was kind of a trendsetter, right? Because a lot of the guys still do it that way. They'll try to keep it just short of the bunker on the right, try to chip it over and hope to make 3 and probably don't.
Now to what I think is the hardest hole on the course. The numbers don't necessarily show it. I think 17 is the most diabolical hole. It doesn't look from the tee box, it's far, but doesn't look that scary. But that fairway, there's nothing flat.
No.
There is nothing flat on that fairway. You can hit the most beautiful shot, and man, your second shot is going to be tough.
Got to split the bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people come up short on that second shot too.
Yes.
Yeah.
With that elevated green.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you can, the cool thing about the way the 17th hole is, it's so long, right? See that tee shot, you got to crush it for a par 4 and you got to split those bunkers. If you hang it to the right, you're in real trouble because you're blocked out by trees. And obviously it's very, very tall grass over on that side. If you keep it left, you got a good angle in, you got a chance. But yeah, you are delighted with par at 17, delighted.
And then once you survive, you get to the grand finale of them all, 18, which the numbers last year, hardest hole on the course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great hole. It's a stunning hole, and man, it makes you work.
So you think about the first hole, what we talked about there with that dogleg right and how difficult that is. And 18's even worse because of the gigantic tree right at the apex of that hole. And it just has you in your feelings on the 18th tee box. What do I do with this ball? And if you can draw it, if you're a Rory type, if you draw it off the tree, you're fine. But you can't go too far left because there's water over there.
There's water.
Yeah,
There's
famous
sand. There's everything.
When Bart Bryant won the tournament back in the mid 2000s, he hit the ball off the tee into the water, took a drop, and got it up and made par.
Unreal.
Wow.
At 18, and that's how he won the tournament.
Wow.
So,
That's unbelievable.
but that's like that's my point is like that hole, unless you're talking about the Paul Azinger chip out of the sand out of the bunker on the short of the 18th to win the tournament, that hole is great for magical moments, but it is a diabolical
It can be
golf hole.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, thoughts?
We saw Scotty have to work pretty darn hard to
He did.
win the tournament by
earn
one
that
stroke
sucker.
last year.
Sure
Yeah,
did.
big putt at 18, and he was excited about it.
And then, of course, if it goes to a playoff like it does all the time, you see it again. So
The re-rack.
The re-rack. So, guys, thank you so much for your insight, having played successfully the Muirfield Village Golf Club.
Successfully completed it.
Is successfully completed, no injuries that we know of. Of course, the Memorial Tournament, we're going to have all of your coverage on NBC4 and here on NBC4i.com, the app, everywhere. It is one of our favorite events of the year. And we hope to, if you see us out there, don't be shy. Make sure you say hi. So for Jared Smalley and Joe Nugent, I'm Whitney Harding. We'll see you next time.